A single anonymous email about average divorce retainers lands in a naive son's inbox, sent, he thinks, by mistake. But the breadcrumb is planted by his mother, a silent strategist pruning lies like diseased rosebuds. As the son pieces together shady bank statements and doctored voicemails, he discovers his wife's plan to gut his fortune. Dear friends, your comments mean the world to us. Like this video and write where you are watching us from. We will be happy to send you our regards. My son's townhouse on Rosegate Lane always smelled faintly of cardamom, a hint of his wife's lineage from Jaipur, or so she liked to remind the garden club women she entertained every other Saturday. When I stepped through the threshold that icy January morning, the spice still lingered, but beneath it curled another odor, sharper and metallic like pennies soaked in rainwater. I told myself it was only the radiator protesting winter, though a thin whip of dread flicked my spine. Jason met me in the foyer with the lopsided grin he'd worn since childhood, the grin that convinced third-grade teachers he'd indeed left his homework on Mars. He hugged me, tall frame bending as if apologizing for outgrowing my reach. "Mom, you're early," he said. "Lena's finishing an investor call." Investor call, I noted, never merely a chat. Everything my daughter-in-law did shimmered with the urgency of ambition. We moved to the kitchen where imported marble counters gleamed like glaciers. Jason brewed coffee, 2 sugars for me, black for himself, but his hands shook enough to clack porcelain. "Quarter-end stress," he explained, though his eyes avoided mine. I followed that gaze to an unopened letter stamped with a crimson logo. Hawthorne and Doyle, family law. A tremor of suspicion fluttered behind my ribs, but I smoothed it with maternal small talk. Weather, the dog sitter's virtue, my new greenhouse panel. Lena entered in a navy sheath dress that sculpted her like chiseled sapphire. She greeted me with kiss air, sweet yet distant, the way diplomats ply courtesy before treaties break. While Jason fiddled with the espresso machine, her phone face down on the island lit up. A preview of a message. "We'll have papers ready once he signs the grant deed." The screen dimmed before I gathered more. The pennies and rain odor sharpened. It was iron, perhaps from my own blood surging faster. I excused myself, claiming curiosity about their new smart home thermostats, and slipped upstairs where coats lay tossed across the guest room bed. In Jason's jacket pocket, I found a crumpled receipt from Trask Investigative Services, one exploratory consult. My pulse stuttered. Had he already begun doubting? Or was the receipt planted, bait for me to react? Years of courtroom observation taught me the more obvious the clue, the deeper the misdirection. Back down, Lena flashed her perfect teeth at Jason. "Remember, we promised to sign the charitable endowment forms before dinner." Endowment, another philanthropic halo. Yet the invoice on her phone suggested lawyers drafting a different document entirely. When I hugged Jason goodbye, I inhaled cardamom laced with a new note, smoke from damp wood that refuses to light, the metaphor lodged. I kissed his cheek and whispered, "Call me later, darling. I'm experimenting with tea roses. You'd love the fragrance." A code he'd recognized from childhood. Roses mean thorns. Handle with gloves. In my car, fingers drummed the steering wheel while snowflakes melted against the windshield like Morse code. My son stood on the brink of a precipice carved by charm and greed, and he did not yet hear the crack of earth beneath his feet. If I shouted, he'd dismiss it as maternal melodrama. If I waited, Lena's dagger might already rest against his unguarded throat. I needed subtler weapons, a pointed whisper, an accidental breadcrumb, enough to spark his own doubt, not ignite his prideful defense of her. That evening, I drafted an email from a fresh account, whispersparrowlegal@protonmail.com. Subject line, average retainer fees for divorce counsel in River County. Body, a polite inquiry, seemingly forwarded in error, containing Hawthorne and Doyle's rate sheet. I scheduled it to arrive at Jason's inbox mid-morning when Lena typically attended her barre class. The rhythm of revelation had to be his, not mine. A lesson only counts when the student solves it. Afterward, I poured Merlot and stood at my bay window, watching street lamps shiver in sleet. The wine tasted thin. Beneath sternum, something tightened. Anger, maternal instinct, grief at coming betrayal. I slid open the desk drawer where I kept my late husband's fountain pen. Its nib looked like a raven's beak poised to pluck eyes from carrion. I capped it again. There would be time for sharper acts if subtler ones failed. Outside, the neighborhood lay quilted in white. On the glass, my reflection fused with snow's ghostly blur, and in that hybrid apparition, I saw the woman I must become. Not martyr, not meddling matron, but sentinel in velvet gloves, guarding family with daggers hidden in embroidery. A clock chimed midnight. Somewhere across town, Lena likely practiced another investor pitch. In Jason's study, perhaps, he drafted quarterly reports, unaware of the lawyer's letter still unopened on the counter. Snow thickened, muffling city hum, but I swore I heard ice crack, the faint hush before avalanche. Jason phoned 2 days later, voice buoyant and brittle. "Mom, funny thing, I got this email about divorce retainers," he said. A forced laugh followed, like porcelain tapped by fork tines. "Must be spam, right?" I twirled a spoon in soup, letting silence thicken. "Strange spam," I mused. "Any reason algorithms think you need it?" He hesitated. "No. Lena and I are solid. Just, weird coincidence, yet seeds sprout in silence." By week's end, he visited me, claiming he missed home-cooked lasagna. Over dinner, he mentioned offhand Lena's sudden focus on separate investment accounts for tax purposes, her insistence on signatures without context. I dabbed sauce from my lip, inwardly noting puzzle pieces aligning. After Jason slept, guest room, light college breaks, I slithered out to the garden shed where I stored archival boxes of family finances. I retrieved an innocuous envelope once mailed to our address by mistake, a luxury spa brochure near Napa. I tucked it in Jason's laptop bag. Lena's name still graced the mailing label, a reminder she'd booked a solo retreat during their anniversary last summer. Another breadcrumb. No accusation. Morning frost silvered the lawn as Jason loaded his car. He found the brochure, brow furrowed. "She said that trip was canceled," he muttered. I shrugged. "Businesses still spam old customers." I watched awareness flicker behind his eyes. First ember. 3 nights later, Lena texted family group chat a glamorous selfie at a charity gala Jason hadn't mentioned. His reply, thought it was networking brunch. Her response lagged an hour. Digital cracks widened. Meanwhile, I prepared a heftier nudge, a printed spreadsheet of joint credit card charges highlighting boutiques Jason had never heard of. Color-coded neon. I left it folded inside the latest Harvard Business Review, a magazine Lena always thumbed but Jason did not. When she found it, uncertainty would coil. Yet the goal remained Jason's awakening, not Lena's cornering. A delicate throttle, too tight and he might defend her out of wounded ego. Sunday brunch at their house revealed progress. Jason's smile had fissures. Lena's conversation fluttered, landing nowhere. Coffees cooled, while silence grew vines along cupboard doors. I noted a new tension in Jason's shoulders, as if weighing unseen armor. That evening, I mailed an untraceable courier envelope to Jason's office. Pre-retainer questionnaire, Trask Investigative Services, checks and balances. Had he already consulted them? If not, curiosity might ink his signature. 2 weeks passed. Sleet turned to icy rain. Sidewalks mirrored pewter skies. One morning, Jason appeared at my door earlier than sunrise, eyes sleepless. "You were right," he said before breath. "I hired a detective." He slid photos onto the kitchen table. Lena meeting Hawthorne attorney at a cafe. Lena unlocking a safe deposit box. Lena dining with a venture capitalist rumored to short Jason's firm. My chest tightened. I reached for his hand, but he withdrew, scanning images like autopsy slides. "She planned post-nuptial amendments, full equity extraction," he said, voice hollow. I let her treat love like leverage. Tears rimmed, unshed. I fought urge to utter "I told you so." A dagger disguised as comfort. Instead, I squeezed his shoulder. Lessons carved deeper than warnings, I whispered. Jason slept in the den. I poured tea, staring at the moon-frosted garden. The sentinel in velvet gloves removed one glove, steel flashed beneath. Stage 3 approached. Collect the broken pieces he'd excavate and forge them into resolve sharper than betrayal. The detective, a wiry woman named Tallis Gray, visited my house the next afternoon. She laid a dossier on my ottoman, bank transfers to secret accounts in Singapore, recorded calls of Lena consulting divorce counsel, even timestamps proving she duplicated Jason's encryption keys. She moves like a chess grandmaster, Tallis said, but emotional arrogance leaves fingerprints. Jason arrived mid-meeting, eyes red. Tallis repeated highlights, measuring each word like bitter medicine. When she left, Jason collapsed onto the sofa, fists cratering cushions. How did I not see? His voice rasped. I sat beside him, letting silence absorb shock. Finally, he asked, "What would Dad do?" I refilled tea, chamomile this time. He'd prepare facts, not fury, I said. He'd treat betrayal as audit, not apocalypse. Jason stared at ceiling beams, tears sliding unnoticed. In the fireplace, embers glowed, survivors of earlier flame. Within days, he met Hawthorne and Doyle, not as Lena's mark, but as opposing counsel. He filed dissolution petitions citing marital fraud, asset concealment. A restraining order barred her from corporate systems. Headlines sprouted, fintech starlet faces divorce amid embezzlement allegations. Investors gripped armrests, boardrooms buzzed. Lena responded with press releases claiming Jason's mother sowed lies. Reporters reached out. I declined interviews, war waged best in silence. But an anonymous tipster, Tallis no doubt, delivered to journalists voice memos of Lena boasting about reinventing single-woman branding after wiping the marital slate clean. Public sympathy shifted. Court hearings loomed. Jason moved into my guest room permanently. Each dawn he jogged snow-dusted streets, returning breathless but steadier. One night, he placed a small box on my lap. Inside, a bracelet, gift from Lena last Christmas. He snapped it in two. "Time to stop wearing illusions," he said. Yet guilt shadowed him. "She loved some version of me," he admitted. I countered. "She loved potential yield. People love sunflowers until seeds dry out." He smiled. Fractured, but forming. On the eve of preliminary hearing, Lena appeared at my doorstep. Snow whirled around her, hair lacquered but eyes frantic. "You turned him against me," she hissed. I met her gaze steady. I opened the blinds. Daylight did the rest. She spat insult in Hindi, stormed back to her Tesla. Snow swallowed tire tracks quickly, nature's whiteout for regrets. Inside, Jason watched from window. "Mom, thank you," he whispered. Gratitude tasted bittersweet. I had dismantled his illusion, but shards still cut. Later, as House slept, I penned a note in Ravenbeak pen. "Family is not porcelain. Fear of cracks keeps it brittle. Break the false, kiln fire the true." I placed it beneath Jason's door. Somewhere beyond walls, thunder rumbled. A real storm at last, promising air scrubbed clean. They say the first hearing is only procedural. Tell that to the photographers who swarm the courthouse steps long before sunrise, breath fogging their lenses like ghosts trying to claim ownership of the living. Jason and I arrived at 6:15 a.m., Tallis Gray close behind, dossier sealed in a graphite briefcase. From across the square, Lena's legal entourage emerged in a ripple of camel hair coats, flanked by two public relations handlers who carried ring lights as if truth required flattering angles. Inside, fluorescent lamps rendered everyone the same shade of hospital pallor. While Jason checked in with the bailiff, Lena approached with a lioness smile so polished it reflected ceiling tiles. "Jonathan," she said, switching to the full name she only used when performing righteousness. "You left your watch charger." She pressed the cable into his palm, gold bracelet on her wrist chiming like a victory bell. The gesture was sweet enough to rot teeth, but Jason noticed the camera's pivot. Her whisper carried venom. When the judge hears about your gambling problem, you'll need to sell the watch anyway. Tallis squeezed my elbow, an anchor gesture, then glided towards security lines. Jason's jaw flexed, yet he pocketed the charger, refusing to stage drama for paparazzi. I inhaled the corridor's disinfectant odor and tasted cold iron, the flavor of fear about to calcify into resolve. Courtroom B, rows of pine benches, Judge Calder's bench looming like a cliff. A brass clock above the seal clicked each second with metronomic disapproval. The session opened with pleasantries weaponized as protocol. Lena's counsel, Sasha Keller, spoke first. Your Honor, our client seeks interim control of shared assets to maintain lifestyle stability. Her voice was silk over barbed wire. She slid forward bank statements flagged in neon, Jason's poker tournament entries from college, resurrected as ongoing risk behaviors. Beside me, Jason's breath caught. He hadn't gambled in 7 years. But reality seldom survives cross-examination when perception is better dressed. Tallis rose, heels soft on linoleum, and laid down color-coded ledgers showing Jason's monthly donations to a youth recoveries fund, evidence of reformation. She reframed college poker not as addiction but as fundraising for tuition. Keller objected, claiming irrelevance, but the judge allowed. Still, the first strike landed, bruises bloom under robes and linger past rulings. Calder froze assets pending evidentiary review, an outcome both lawyers predicted, yet the word frozen reverberated like a door slammed on spring. Jason's shoulders slumped. Lena dabbed non-existent tears with a monogrammed handkerchief, glancing sideways to ensure press captured the droplet that never was. On courthouse steps, reporters shouted for comment. Tallis ushered Jason into the waiting SUV, but Lena paused, letting microphones orbit. I trust the court, she said. Marriage should be partnership, not secrecy. Cameras gulped the soundbite. In the car ride home, Jason punched headrest fabric hard enough to split a seam. I never kept secrets, he rasped. I wanted to say you kept hope, sometimes the cruelest secret, but silence can be gauze. That night snow fell again, dense as static. Jason scrolled social feeds. Half of his former colleagues already parroted Lena's narrative. Tallis emailed. Keller filed a motion requesting psychological evaluation, citing maternal overreach shaping plaintiff's perception. My name in legal prose felt like ice dropped down a collar. The sentinel role slipped towards scapegoat. Still, fear is a tool. Point it correctly and it tunnels through stone. I brewed cardamom tea, the smell of Lena's house now repurposed as war paint, and drafted my own motion, a sworn declaration outlining only facts I'd personally witnessed. No opinions, no adjectives. Adjectives leak bias. Tallis would decide if it reached the docket, but writing it lanced pressure inside my chest. Words can be stitching or shrapnel. Tonight they acted as both. At 3 a.m., Jason ambled into the kitchen, eyes ringed with insomnia. He glanced at the teapot, recognizing scent. Everything tastes like her, he murmured. I poured 2 cups. Steam swirled between us, ghosting illusions of wedding toast that now aged into poison. Cardamom covers bitterness, I said. Sip slowly. You'll still taste the spice when the cup is empty. He nodded. And for the first time since kindergarten, I saw him resist tears not out of pride but necessity. Weeping would drown him before the verdict. Somewhere beyond the frost-latticed windows, a siren wailed. I imagined Lena rehearsing depositions in their once-shared bedroom, mirror reflecting not her face but a ledger. One chapter had ended. We'd stepped into the fog between decisions. The place fables seldom document because heroes can lose their way here, yet fog is only cloud at ground level. Raise your lantern high enough, and droplets scatter into revelation. Week 2 unfolded like a magician's scarf. Every tug produced another color of accusation. Lena's PR team leaked a confidential HR complaint claiming Jason berated junior analysts. Evidence consisted of a single Slack message. We're double counting churn? Punctuation repackaged as hostility. Financial blogs amplified it. Jason's company shares dipped 5%. Investors tasting blood through fiber optic cables. Tallis countered with depositions from the analysts, each describing Jason's mentorship. But reputational wounds clot slowly. Board members scheduled an emergency review. Meanwhile, Keller subpoenaed my phone records, fishing for proof I coordinated leaks. Tallis warned me. They'd scrutinize every unlabeled call. I pictured the Whisper Sparrow email account perched like a guilty raven. But server logs were scrubbed. Tallis's gray hat consultant owed her favors. Lena shifted tactics, emotional invasion. She texted Jason selfie photos from their honeymoon in Ubud, sunlit rice terraces, orchids pinned behind her ear, no caption. The message was lighter fluid sprayed on smoldering heartbreak. Jason deleted it, but the image burned behind his eyelids. I decided the next breadcrumb had to cut through nostalgia's fog. In my attic, I unearthed an antique steamer trunk, inside an heirloom engagement ring, my mother-in-law's. Jason had offered Lena, but she'd replaced with a designer diamond. The appraisal receipt showed she pawned the heirloom 6 months after the wedding. I photographed the receipt and emailed it anonymously to Tallis. She forwarded it to Jason with the subject line, "Forgotten Jewelry?" No explanation. He recognized the serial number. Another brick dislodged from the foundation of memory. Jason's internal conflict now hummed like high-voltage wire. Rage toward betrayal battled shame in failing to detect it. He spent evenings reviewing financial ledgers Tallis compiled, lines of red expenses leaping like arterial spray. I watched him grow paler, edges sharpening. Transformation often masquerades as damage. Lena responded to deposition subpoenas with lavish delays, spa retreats, unavoidable investor summits, a sudden bout of stress-induced laryngitis documented by celebrity doctor. Judge Calder threatened sanctions. She complied with a hiss. On video deposition, she wore white silk, every answer prefaced with, "To my knowledge," each smile hollow. Still, her performance played well on social. Hashtags number signed strong Lena trending among influencer circles. I coached Jason on emotional judo. Never counter smear with smear. Supply data and trust quiet credibility. Yet part of me seethed. Motherhood is lioness instinct. Walking a corridor of justice with muzzled roar grinds enamel. Mid-March, the board concluded review. Jason retained CEO role but placed under financial ethics oversight. Betrayal bled into boardroom. He returned home that night. Tie askew, voice flat. "She's everywhere," he said, as though Lena had become a frequency jamming his neurons. I brewed chamomile, steam diffused like surrender. But surrender is a pause, not an endpoint. Tallis convened a strategy meeting. "We dangle settlement," she proposed. "Offer equity split if she signs non-disparagement." "She's bleeding reputation, too. She'll bite." Jason hesitated. Settlement felt like paying ransom, yet court wars consume marrow. He agreed to consider. We drafted a letter, 15% of assets, no spousal support, NDA. Keller's reply arrived within hours. A photograph of the letter shredded, caption, "Try again." Accompanying email threatened to introduce evidence of Jason's mother manipulating litigation. My name typed in bold. They'd found a cracked window in our fortress. That night, I stood in greenhouse among tea rose cuttings, pruning shears gleaming. On a shelf lay my sworn declaration, unsigned. Tallis believed we might need it soon, to show transparency, disarm mother manipulation narrative. Signing felt like undressing before sharks, but family is communion. You sip wine even if chalice brims with thorns. I watched a ladybird crawl along thorn stem, navigating spikes with practiced grace. Perhaps love is that. Not the avoidance of barbs, but the soft grit to keep climbing. I signed the declaration. Pre-trial conference dawned under slate skies. Calder aimed to finalize witness lists. The courtroom buzzed like a wasp's nest anticipating boot heel. Keller unveiled her new grenade, a private investigator report claiming I sent anonymous emails. She flashed a screenshot of Whisper Sparrow header data, manufactured Tallis suspected, tying IP to my neighborhood. Gasps performed obediently in the gallery. Tallis surprised me. She didn't object. Instead, she called me to testify the same day. Strategy pivot. On the stand, oak witness rails cold under palms, I acknowledged sending Jason 2 documents of financial concern anonymously. Murmurs. Calder's eyebrow arched. Tallis asked, "Why not tell your son openly?" I inhaled. The courtroom smelled like stale coffee and old varnish. "Because direct warnings from mothers often land in a box labeled nagging," I said. "Breadcrumbs let loved ones trace danger themselves." Keller cross-examined. "So you manipulated, yes?" I met her gaze. "I illuminated," she pressed about Whisper Sparrow. "I conceded the email, denied forging evidence." Tallis submitted server logs from consultants showing header packets had later inserts. Someone spoofed addresses to amplify mother-influence narrative. Calder requested forensic review. Recess buzzed with hot takes. Jason approached me in hallway, eyes brimming. "I'm sorry you had to admit that." I squeezed his hand. Truth blooms best when roots show. Across corridor, Lena watched, lips set. For the first time, her eyes wavered, not rage but uncertainty. Later, forensic analysts confirmed email spoof. Malicious actor masked IP after initial send. Tallis argued Keller's evidence tainted. Calder admonished Keller for failing diligence, sanctioning nominal fine. Lena's armor dented. Settlement conference scheduled under judicial order. We met in paneled anteroom, air thick as oversteeped tea. Jason offered last proposal. 10% assets, NDA, no alimony. Lena's gaze scanned signatures on my declaration, then fixed on Jason's trembling hand. Something shifted, perhaps fatigue, perhaps math of dwindling public sympathy. She countered 12%, 24-month NDA. Tallis whispered. Jason nodded, agreement inked. As pens clicked, Lena's shoulders slumped, the first posture of someone realizing victory tastes like ash when plated alone. Outside, sleet turned to rain, drumming roof with sudden forgiveness. Keller retreated to draft final orders. Lena lingered. She met my eyes. "You never trusted me." "Trust is built," I replied, "and you sold the bricks." She swallowed. No comeback. That evening, Jason and I walked the frozen river path near his childhood park. Ice floes cracked like distant applause. He clasped my gloved fingers. "You broke porcelain so truth could breathe." I answered. "Porcelain glued hides cracks, crystal cut sings with them." He understood. Tears found space to fall. News cycle spun settlement as mutual civility. Investors exhaled. Jason returned to work unshackled. Lena vanished into wellness retreat. Stories of her next brand percolated but fizzled. Days later, Jason moved into a smaller apartment overlooking city lights. He installed no cardamom diffusers. Instead, roses, my greenhouse cuttings, perfumed the air. I visited, breathing fragrance not of betrayal but of wounds healing, petals unfurling toward improbable March sun. In my journal I wrote, "Thunder keeps nests alert." We'd survived the clap. Feathers ruffled yet intact. Storm lines still scar sky, but my son now reads clouds before they break, and I, a sentinel in velvet gloves, can finally rest fists unclenched. Jason's new apartment overlooked the river bend where tugboats nudged cargo barges through morning mist, steel shepherds nudging slow beasts. He chose the top floor for its floor-to-ceiling windows and its illusion of altitude safety. Troubles felt smaller when watched from above. Yet the first night he lay on the sofa, river lights flickering across bare drywall, and discovered altitude cannot thin memories. The silence tasted of drywall dust and unfinished sentences. He woke before dawn, ran 5 miles along the frost-filmed boardwalk, then brewed dark coffee that smelled nothing like cardamom. Work followed, spreadsheets, earnings projections, investor zooms. His voice remained even, his metrics clean, but every time a notification chimed, he half expected Lena's name to surface like a buoy marking unexploded ordnance. Twice that week, he misread legal update as Lena update and felt his heart scoot sideways like a startled crab. I visited with greenhouse roses, blood-red cultivar called Phoenix, yet the blooms wilted within hours, the apartment too dry. Jason apologized as if floral mortality measured filial love. I clipped browned petals, reminding him renewal needs rhythm, not apology. He nodded, scanning a fresh HR report. Social media chatter trending again around his name. Hashtags resurrected, hashtag Jason the Gambler, hashtag silent sanctioned CEO. Bots, Tallis said. Kellar's firm had been fined, but online echoes outlast sanctions. That evening, Jason attended a fundraiser for green tech startups, his first public appearance in settlement. Tallis advised presence equals narrative control. Journalists clustered near champagne fountains, flashbulbs stitched false starlight overhead. Jason delivered a concise speech on sustainable finance, applause echoing like cautious approval. Yet as he stepped from podium, a blogger cornered him with a tablet screen pulsing scarlet headline, Lena Patel to publish memoir, Marriage, Markets, and Manipulation. Cover mock-up featured Lena in yoga pose, ringless hand held to heart. Jason's chest tightened, applause morphed into tin can rattle inside skull. He thanked the blogger, retreated to restroom, pressed palms to cool marble sink. Breathing exercises Tallis taught him, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, couldn't chase the image of his life reframed as someone else's cautionary tale. He texted me one word, memoir. I replied, plot twists require protagonists. He didn't answer. The next morning, Lena's book announcement trended global. Pre-orders crashed publisher site. Her teaser chapter, released exclusively to an influencer podcast, depicted a mother-in-law puppet master who weaponized rose petals and forged evidence. She referenced silence clauses but never named names, dancing on legal tripwires like a tightrope walker over Shark Tank. Calls poured into Jason's office, board members fearing brand damage, venture partners wanting disclaimers. HR flagged uptick in internal Slack jokes, harmless on surface, but termites gnaw foundations quietly. Jason drafted a company-wide email. Focus on innovation, factual transparency. He signed it, hovered over send, then deleted. Words felt brittle. Glass walls break with one thrown stone. I arrived bearing a care package of miso soup and Tallis's latest intel. Lena signed with Ariel Stone PR, the same firm that salvaged a pop star's image after extortion scandal. Stone's specialty: mixing personal empowerment with half-truths until audience forgets to ask which half matters. They'll start micro-content, Tallis warned. TikTok tears, Medium post meditations, wellness webinars. She'll monetize sympathy, Jason pinched brow. She doesn't rest, he whispered. I countered, neither do tides. Boats stay afloat by learning rhythm. Night fell. River fog inhaled city neon, exhaled ghostly plumes. Jason scrolled comments until his eyes stung. Strangers diagnosing his childhood, debating my greenhouse roses as cult symbol. At 2 a.m., he emailed Tallis, need offensive strategy, not just defense. She responded instantly, meet tomorrow 8 o'clock? I returned to my apartment, yet sleep arrived only in fragments, each dream showing Lena squeezing memoir pages until ink dripped like blood. Tallis's office resembled a submarine. No windows, steel desks, humming servers stacked like torpedoes. We sat around a smartboard glowing with a Venn diagram, reputation, legal neutrality, ethical retaliation. At center, digital counter-narrative. Phase 1. Release Jason's full audit logs preemptively on GitHub. Financial transparency impossible to spin. Phase 2. Partner with mental health NGO to host webinar Gambling Myths in Silicon Finance. Reframing college poker as cautionary lens on burnout. Phase 3. Leak, but only to reputable journalists. The forensic proof of Lena's doctored email headers emphasizing tech security lessons. Jason frowned. Won't that escalate? Tallis's eyes flared. Fire draws eyes. Controlling burn prevents wildfire. She pivoted slide, a graph showing positive sentiment rebound after authentic voice campaigns. I saw Jason's shoulders stiffen, executive mode engaged. He greenlit plan, though unease flicked behind pupils. My role? Cultivate humanization arc. Interviews with legacy media profiling mother-son resilience. I balked. Public vulnerability felt like opening greenhouse doors during frost. Tallis insisted one controlled story beats 20 reckless rumors. I agreed on condition writer be Marianne Fielding, an investigative journalist who once exposed elder care scams with empathy. Tallis arranged call. Fielding accepted. That week became choreography. GitHub repos launched, webinar scheduled, Fielding interviewed us in my rose-scented conservatory. She asked about breadcrumbs. I admitted anonymous hints. Manipulative? She probed. I replied, gardeners prune to let sunlight through. She smiled, though sadness flickered. Perhaps her own thorns invisible. GitHub transparency drew praise from fintech circles. Webinar attracted thousands. But algorithm wars escalate. Stone PR counter-released Lena's TikTok of tearful monologue about gaslighting and affluent marriages. 2 million views in 24 hours. Comments split. Empathy versus skepticism. Stone then played heavier card. A leaked voicemail of Jason allegedly berating Lena. Fuzzy audio, but angry male voice complaining about worthless influencer schedule. Tallis's team analyzed, metadata manipulated, voice sample spliced from Jason's recorded investor call. We prepped cease and desist. Before filing, Fielding published her piece, A Mother's Breadcrumbs, What It Takes to Save a Son from Designer Betrayal. Article balanced tenderness with hard fact. She quoted Jason acknowledging his naivety, owning mistakes. She described roses, fountain pens, snowstorm silence. Readers flooded comments, realism over reality TV drama. Sentiment metrics tipped. Stone struck again. Microsite truthpatel.com hosting documents proving Jason embezzled from company. But PDFs bore mismatched fonts. Metadata weeks old. Tallis's cybersecurity analyst traced site registry to Stone's intern. Lawsuit filed, site taken down. Still, screenshots circulated. Board confronted Jason. Need watertight assurance of innocence. He offered full third-party forensic audit, CEO salary escrow until cleared. Board accepted, stock inched upward. Yet stress tattooed purple under Jason's eyes. One evening, he arrived at my house soaking from spring rain. He carried a box, their wedding photo, a Balinese wood carving, and the pawn shop tag for heirloom ring. Take or burn, he said. I set tea to steep. He pressed palms to window pane water rivulets matching tears not yet shed. Mom, she's turning the world into theater. I'm stuck backstage rearranging props. I answered, actors break when audience learns the lines are scripted. Keep handing out copies of script. Unredacted later, alone, I opened the pawn tag. Price scribbled in blue pen, $1,800. The ring once appraised for 10 times more. Betrayal rarely sells at market value. Spring equinox brought an unexpected thaw and another headline, Lena Patel hospitalized for exhaustion. Social media flooded with hashtag pray for Lena. Stone PR seeded rumor. Jason's litigation bullying triggered collapse. Health Privacy Shield blocked verification. Tallis suspected sympathy stunt. We prepared statement wishing her recovery while reaffirming facts. That night, Jason hosted a live stream Q&A, risky, but authenticity thrives in unscripted spaces. River lights shimmered behind him. I moderated off camera. Viewers fired questions on betrayal, gambling, emotion regulation. Jason answered with steady candor. Heartbreak doesn't justify sabotage. Metrics soared. Until final question. Did your mother orchestrate investigation to seize your assets? Jason paused. Cameras captured micro muscle quake near his eye. He replied, My mother showed me breadcrumbs. I chose the path moment viral. Hashtags, hashtag breadcrumb wisdom, hashtag choose the path. Lena's camp attempted counter, but digital wind shifted. Jokes about crumb-proof marriages trended. Pre-orders of her memoir plateaued. Publisher quietly postponed release, citing narrative alignment. Stone's final gambit surfaced 2 days later, just after dusk. A deep-fake video portraying Jason snorting cocaine while trash-talking diversity. Initiatives. Quality high enough to fool casual watch. Stone fed it to fringe outlets, but within hours, Talas's team demonstrated GAN fingerprint anomalies, releasing side-by-side analysis. Mainstream press condemned fabrication. Stone PR issued vague apology, parted ways with Lena to respect her healing journey. As midnight struck, river outside Jason's window pulsed with reflections of skyscraper apologies. The next morning, board emailed, "Forensic audit complete, no wrongdoing, oversight lifted, stocks rose 8%, Talas texted celebratory confetti emoji, Jason visited my greenhouse-bearing cappuccinos. We pruned phoenix roses, petals catching dawn." Storms passed. He exhaled. I corrected. Seasons changed. He smiled. True this time. A week later, a padded envelope arrived. Inside, notarized letter from Lena's attorney withdrawing public allegations, accepting 8% assets under stricter gag clause, canceling memoir. The letter closed with personal notes scrawled in unfamiliar handwriting. Lena's perhaps shaky. Sometimes truth tastes like ashes. Better to swallow than choke. I placed letter into greenhouse compost pile. Ashes fertilize new blooms. That evening, Jason hosted board dinner in Riverview apartment. Menu: miso soup, greenhouse salad, cardamom-infused panna cotta, reclaiming scent, rewriting memory. He toasted to transparency as legacy. Glasses clinked. Moon rippled on water, unbroken. When guests left, Jason handed me a new fountain pen, Ravenbeak nib replaced by rose gold. Time to write not just letters, but peace treaties with ourselves, he said. I uncapped it, ink glimmering like midnight river. To new seasons, I replied, and signed first word on blank page, hope. Outside, distant thunder echoed, not threat, but memory. We listened, unafraid. Aftershocks had turned to applause. We could meet with steady breath. Spring lengthened its daylight like a gambler raising the stakes, and with every new hour of sun, Jason's confidence seemed to fill and warm like a greenhouse pane. He wore tailored jackets again, still sober in color but no longer armor. Even the river looked different, its pewter surface polishing into silver beneath April glare. Yet prosperity, like river ice, can thin in unexpected places. On the first Thursday of the new quarter, the Kingston X board gathered to ratify a sustainable finance initiative Jason had championed since Lena's digital war, a microloan platform for minority-owned green tech startups. Analysts predicted strong ESG buzz. Investors buzzed louder. I watched from the back of the glass conference gallery, silent stakeholder with pen poised in a leather-bound notebook. The room smelled of espresso, printer toner, and anticipation. Jason outlined projections, 8% net yield by year 2, reputational lift incalculable but likely to eclipse our last 5 campaigns combined. Presentation slid to final slide. True growth is transparent, and applause broke like contained rainfall. Yet while claps still echoed, Sebastian Vane, aging venture capitalist whose suit buttons strained at expansion, cleared his throat. Before we rubber stamp, he said, I'd like to address new information regarding patent litigation risk. He gestured to an associate who distributed stapled packets stamped confidential. Jason's brow furrowed. He hadn't seen these. Pages alleged Kingston X's flagship algorithm violated a dormant patent owned by River 30 Holdings, a shell company recently purchased by, according to footnotes, LP Strategies. LP. Lena Patel. Gasps thinned the oxygen. Sebastian continued, if this claim advances, any goodwill from today's vote could backfire. Talas, seated beside me, whispered an expletive. She'd traced Stone PR's meltdown but missed this flank. Jason flipped through pages, eyes tightening at each bullet. Cease and desist threats. Penalty estimates bigger than his green loan fund. He inhaled slowly. "We performed due diligence today," he said, voice steel calm. "The vote postponed. Committee formed. Meeting adjourned. Investors filed out, murmurs swirling like loose nails in a jar. Outside elevator doors, I approached Jason. "She found new angles," he muttered, pulse visible at jaw hinge. "She's decoying a patent troll." Tallis added, "Shell doc registry lists came in address, same as Stone's trust." She suggested immediate IP audit. Jason nodded but looked past us, eyes fixed on distant harbor cranes shifting containers, weight moving. Wait. That night, river fog returned, but electricity in Jason's apartment hummed with investigation. Laptops sprouted across dining table. Tallis's cyber forensics team beamed in. Legal counsel joined via encrypted call. The patent description looked suspiciously derivative of open source code Jason had published years earlier. If Lena's shell claimed ownership, they must possess doctored timestamps or stolen internal commits. Either way, damage required neutralization. Mid-strategy session, Tallis's phone pinged a short email from Lena's personal account. First direct contact since settlement. Subject, a better path body. I want to talk. Only Grace is expensive. L. Grace? Tallis's eyes narrowed. Jason puzzled. I recognized the name. Grace Dunn, a seasoned mediator who guided charity disputes. If Lena courted a neutral, perhaps fatigue-frayed her armor. Tallis advised caution, a play for leverage. Jason hesitated, thumb hovering over reply. Burning attack, then offering truce, he said. I answered, sometimes arsonists call firefighters to get front row seats. He half smiled, typed open to talk. Proposed time. Sent. At 2 a.m., forensic analysts confirmed code provenance. Jason's open source license predated River 30 patent filing by 4 years. They prepared a copyright estoppel brief and a press deck. Evidence strong, but board nerves fragile. Before dawn, my phone buzzed. Unknown number voicemail, Lena's voice soft yet threadbare. I need to end this. He'll lose everything but pride. Ask her to meet me. Her pronouns colliding, he, her, meaning Jason and I. I played the message twice, hearing fray around each syllable, the exhaustion of a trapeze artist who finds the net made of self-inflicted rope burns. I brewed chamomile before rousing Jason. He listened, face carved with suspicion softened by empathy's ghost. She's manipulator, he said, yet he pocketed phone, dialed mediator. Hours later, Grace Dunn scheduled a private session at Riverstone Retreat, neutral site outside city. Jason insisted Tallis attend. Grace agreed but barred me. I relented, though maternal pulse drum protest. As SUV carried them away, I remained in greenhouse trimming thorn tips from Phoenix roses. Snip after snip, I realized I'd become sentinel again, gloves stained with chlorophyll and worry. Through glass ceiling, late morning sun burned, magnifying every particle of dust swirling above petals. Symbolism clear, light reveals residual debris. In the distance, thunderheads gathered. Weather prediction matched day's uncertainty, 60% chance of lightning, 100% chance of revelation. Riverstone Retreat, once a monastery, now corporate mediation sanctuary, stood amid rain-dark pines. Jason felt monastery hush press on eardrums. He, Tallis, and Grace waited in cedar-scented library where candles pooled gold. Lena arrived wearing oversized trench coat, phone absent, eyes ringed with insomnia's bruise. She carried a manila envelope and a pair of eyeglasses snapped at hinge, lens cracked. She twirled them like worry beads. Grace opened. Intent here is reconciliation of outstanding conflict topics, intellectual property claim, PR hostilities, NDA boundaries, legalese trimmed to bones. Lena slid envelope across table. Withdrawn patent assignments, she whispered. Document signed, notarized, River 30 transferred to Jason for $1. Talus scanned, legitimate. Jason stared. Why? Lena exhaled. Because Grace cost $600 an hour, she quipped, but tears welled. She recounted Stone's deep fake fiasco. They demanded she escalate. Scandal collapsed. Sponsors withdrew. Memoir contract frozen. Hospital stint real. Panic attack disguised as exhaustion. Broken glasses proof. She smashed them during bathroom blackout. Shards cutting cheek. Concealer masked wound. I built empire on aesthetics, she said. Shattered mirror shows edges. Grace guided breath exercise. Lena confessed shell patent aimed to push Jason into bigger settlement. Stone's idea. With Stone gone and legal fees mounting, she realized war devours both armies. She produced second document, apology letter addressed to board, agreeing to record public statement retracting gambling rumors. Talus asked about memoir. Cancelled, Lena replied, voice cracking. Truth costs words I can't afford. Jason listened, arms folded. Trust shards littered room. What do you want in return? He asked. Lena's gaze dropped to cracked glasses. A chance to disappear quietly. Reduce payment schedule penalties. Silence about hospitalization. Talus drafted amended clause. Jason grants extended payout term. Lena waives all media rights. Grace notarized. Yet tension remained. Emotional ledger unbalanced. Jason stood. I gave you ring worth decades of marriage. You pawned for pennies. Lena sobbed. Because value frightened me. She removed delicate chain from neck, phoenix rose charm I once gifted at bridal shower. Your mother tends flowers that survive fire, she said, placing charm on table. Return to greenhouse. Session closed. Rain hammered roof like urgent typing. Outside, Jason and Talus reached SUV. He pocketed rose charm, uncertain of gesture's weight. Back home, he handed charm to me. Rainwater glimmered on metal petals. She surrendered patent, he said. I nodded but tasted distrust's aftertaste. Board accepted patent transfer. Voted unanimously for green loan launch. Stocks jumped. Media framed Lena's climb down as wellness pivot. Still, comments whirred with speculation. Not 48 hours later, Jason received encrypted email from anonymous address. A 5-second video. Shaky phone footage of him hugging Lena outside retreat. Angle made embrace appear intimate. Caption. Reunion. He forwarded to Talus. She compared metadata. Recorded by retreat staffer, likely sold. Viral potential high. Talus posted preemptive statement. Closing mediation fosters civility. Reconciliation rumor inaccurate. Provided patent documents. Video fizzled. Yet Jason's pulse proved fragile. Each ambush reopened scab. I suggested ceremony, symbolic release to mark closure. He agreed, though wary of theatrics. We chose River Dock at dusk, candles afloat and biodegradable lanterns shaped like roses. Evening painted water copper. Small group. Jason, Talus, 2 board allies. Me. Jason read short, vow to prioritize transparency, then placed rose charm atop lantern, lit wick, flame haloed petals. Launching across ripples. Clouds parted, first stars born. Watching charm drift, Jason breathed deep, the exhale of man no longer gripping ghost. Lightning flickered west, but thunder didn't reach. For moment, peace felt plausible. 4 nights later, sabotage struck from unexpected quarter. Kingston X servers breached. Green loan applicant data leaked. Blog accused company of lax security. Cyber team traced intrusion to stolen admin token belonging to Jason. Token created day after mediation. Timestamp during handshake goodbye. Lena's ringless finger looked back from memory, waving innocently. Board emergency call. Trust wobbled anew. Talus verified logs, token minted by compromised retreat Wi-Fi capturing Jason's password. Attacker routed through proxies, not necessarily Lena. Yet suspicion soared. Press latched. Mediation Trojan horse. Social sentiment tanked. Jason phoned me at midnight, voice raw. Mom, I keep rebuilding bridges she torches. I listened to storm-lashed windows, real thunder this time. Perhaps Bridgewood still soaked with past, I said. Let it dry before crossing. Talus's forensic lead discovered malware variant used previously by Stone PR and political smear hack. Stone behind again, leveraging retreat footage and credentials to sabotage both ex-spouses, maximizing notoriety for next clients. Proof. IP slip due to lazy engineer, chat logs boasting, lawsuit launched, FBI cyber division engaged. Board reinstated Jason's clearance, applauded resilience, but his hands trembled over keyboard. Trauma's echo lingers after last bullet. I invited him to greenhouse for dawn tea. Rain had washed dust from panes. Sunlight refracted rainbow shards onto phoenix petals. We sat among humidity and bees. You've learned to defend, I said. Now learn to delegate. You can't be firewall and architect, he nodded slowly. I will step aside, appoint CTO for security ops. Decision seated. As bees buzzed, he asked, when will you stop guarding me? I stared at pruning shears glinting in soil. When buds bloom without shade, I answered. He reached across potting bench, placed shears gently on shelf, gesture symbolic, then watch me grow. Days later, press-covered Stone PR raid, cyber evidence seized. Lena, cleared of new intrusion, released statement condemning Stone, praising Jason's transparency, pledging portion of settlement to cybersecurity education. Public responded with cautious respect. Jason texted, "Closure tastes less bitter now." I replied with rose emoji, not thorns. Board launched green loan platform, signups tripled projections, fueled by narrative of resilience. At opening gala, Jason spoke, voice clear, roses thrive because thorns deter casual harm. But it's the bloom we remember. Applause pure. I watched from balcony, Ravenbeak pen replaced by rose gold notebook page, reading simply bridges glow brightest when weathered wood meets sunrise. Perhaps control, once necessary, now risked stifling growth. I loosened grip. After gala, Jason escorted me to Riverside. Water murmured against pylons. He said, "Mom, I booked vacation, first in years." Solo hike along Camino Portuguese, I smiled, heart tugged between fear and pride. "Pilgrimage shows you horizon," I said. He squeezed my hand. "Breadcrumbs optional." We parted. I walked home beneath streetlights haloed by mist, realizing Sentinel's post might stand vacant. At Greenhouse, I opened journal, wrote, "When bridges finish burning, they leave ember hearts glowing. Guides for those who cross next." Lights dimmed, thunder distant, less alarming, more like percussion for night's lullaby. The airport smelled of jet fuel and roasted espresso, alchemy of leaving and longing. Jason adjusted the straps of a slate-gray backpack, the Camino Portuguese scallop shell clinking against the zipper like a tiny cymbal calling pilgrims to rhythm. I stood beside the security barrier, fingers cradling a travel pouch stuffed with seed packets, miniature phoenix rose cuttings sealed in damp paper towels. "Plant one where the Atlantic first appears," I instructed, pressing the bundle into his palm. He smiled, a curve neither brittle nor forced. "Breadcrumbs that bloom," he said, tucking the pouch near his passport. Announcements crackled overhead, boarding called. He hugged me hard, heartbeat drumming steadier than winter's first storm. Then he vanished into the TSA river, carried toward Lisbon, toward a trail older than betrayal. The apartment felt echo empty after his departure. Even the river outside my own window seemed to hush in solidarity. I brewed cardamom tea, habit now reclaimed, and opened the greenhouse where roses swayed under grow lamps. Their fragrance carried memory but no longer waves of war. I pruned dead heads, mindful that each snip removed history's weight. Mid-snip, phone vibrated, unknown European number. My pulse skipped. I wiped soil from thumb, answered. A gentle female voice, Portuguese accent, warm olive tone, asked for Mrs. Harper. This is Carmen Oliveira, host at Albergue de Lua. Your son asked me to tell you the phoenix rose is planted. Behind her words, I heard gull cries and distant surf. In that ambient hymn of waves, I felt Jason's first kilometer settle into place. For the next week, his messages were sparse but vivid. A photo of moss-cloaked stone crosses, an audio clip of rain drumming eucalyptus leaves, a single emoji of a scallop shell after 27 kilometers. Each ping tasted like freedom laced with sweat. Meanwhile, my days slipped into quieter patterns. Greenhouse at dawn, volunteer shifts at Queen's Haven, now thriving, evenings drafting an op-ed about caregiver boundaries. I rewrote the first paragraph 7 times, struck by irony. What did I know about releasing control? On day 9, a padded envelope arrived postmarked Kyoto, not Portugal. Inside lay Lena's rose gold necklace with a note. He said you guarded fires. Perhaps now you garden stars. Beneath, a photo of Lena at a mental health symposium, microphone in hand, page banner reading Resilience Without Retaliation. Her cheeks still carried faint scar from glasses, eyes softer, forgiveness extended from unexpected soil. I set the necklace on my dresser next to Ravenbeak pen and inhaled. A knot deep within, one I'd mistaken for vigilance, loosened. People can pivot, I admitted. Not all changes require my shears. That night, storm clouds barged over the city, thunder rolling but distant, the percussion we'd learned to hear without panic. I dreamed Jason walking coastal cliffs, lantern glow painting tide pools gold, each step scattering silver-white gulls. When I woke before dawn, phone buzzed with new voicemail, Jason's voice breathless. Mom, I'm at the Atlantic Overlook. Your rose cuttings planted. Waves sound like applause. Thought you'd want to hear he held line open. Surf hissed like pages turning. I whispered into dark, Bloom wild, my son. For the first time since sending anonymous breadcrumbs, my voice carried no warning, only benediction. Jason's return flight touched down late May. Evening sky flushed coral. At arrivals, he looked sun-browned. Beard stubble flecked with copper, eyes holding new hush. Slinging backpack into trunk, he said, The route teaches economy of steps and stories. Carry too many knees protest. We detoured to the river dock before heading home. Sunset mirrored red-orange on calm water. Tugboats rested like tired mastiffs. Jason produced a canvas roll. Inside lay pages from his pilgrimage journal. Ink washes of chapel ruins, bullet point reflections. Forgiveness is like lichen, slow but persistent. He asked me to read them later, after rest, because some epiphanies need solitude before sharing. At the apartment, his first act caught me off guard. He unfurled a blueprint across the coffee table. Title block, Swangate Urban Gardens, Phase 1. Concept, converting abandoned railway corridor into community greenhouse network, teaching residents food, sustainability, and emotional horticulture. Phoenix roses earmarked for central arch. I spoke with Lisbon architects. He said, we can replicate modular frames here. He invited me not as foreman, but advisor. Only if you want, he added quickly. Earlier, Jason craved my oversight. Now he eyed partnership. My heart fluttered. Advisor, yes, I said, but pruning decisions belong to gardeners. He grinned. Deal. Next morning, we met City Council liaison. Momentum sprang. Investors from Green Loan Platform pledged seed funds. My greenhouse cuttings propagated en masse, each velvety shoot like punctuation in new paragraph. Mid-planning swirl. Invitation arrived. Lena requested meeting. No lawyers. A public cafe. Jason hesitated. Tallis encouraged closure. I offered to accompany. Jason chose to go alone. Growth tests graphed strength. He met Lena at Riverside Bistro midday. Tallis observed from remote security feed, unseen. I waited at greenhouse potting bench, soil cool beneath nails. When Jason returned hours later, he carried no visible wounds, no triumph grin, just thoughtful creases near mouth. We brewed chamomile. He summarized. Lena apologized for Sabotage's last echo, admitted Stone PR's deepfake trick. She'd join Cyber Ethics Initiative and donate book advance to NGO. She returned wedding photo negatives, asked for digital copies of Ecuador volunteer trip they'd scrapped due to work. She wants memory, not money, Jason said. I asked how he felt. He whispered, lighter. Later, we planted phoenix saplings at prospective Swangate plot. Volunteers dug holes. Children from nearby school pressed soil with small palms. Jason knelt, rose gold necklace looped around his wrist, a quiet talisman connecting past to seedlings. He glanced at me. You once said break false porcelain. I'm sculpting clay now, malleable, I nodded, chest warming like compost waking. Weeks rolled forward. City-approved pilot, media praise transformation narrative, even trolls tired of old allegations. Jason's board status solidified. He promoted a female CTO from refugee background, citing security needs fresh eyes, not old egos. Press called it visionary. I called it overdue. One humid evening while arranging donor tags on greenhouse benches, I felt dizzy. Darkness flickered. Jason found me slumped sitting between rows, soil damp against skirt. Hospital tests revealed mild arrhythmia. Stress echo, doctor said. Jason's face paled. Guilt rose. I squeezed his hand. Even sentinels need watch replaced. He teared. We negotiated boundaries, 2 greenhouse days per week, yoga mornings, no 2 a.m. strategic emails. I promise compliance. Recovery days slowed heartbeat but sharpened vision. I reread Jason's Camino pages. A line glowed. A mother's lesson teaches direction. A mother's trust teaches distance. Tears blurred words into watercolor. I penned letter to Jason. My dearest gardener, bridges glow brightest because fires once kissed them, but bridges are meant for crossing, not camping. Walk on. I'll wave from shoreline. Pruning when asked, not before. I sealed envelope tucked into his project binder. 6 months later, Swan Gate Urban Gardens opened under harvest moon glow. Lanterns dotted trellis aisles, illuminating phoenix roses in full red splendor, their fragrance mingling with basil and tomato vines. Music floated, strings and soft percussion, notes threading between lattice. City officials, investors, neighbors milled, sipping elderflower cordial. Jason stood on the cedar stage wearing linen shirt. He looked like nobody's CEO, just a man who believes soil under fingernails strengthens spreadsheets. He thanked volunteers, credited board, singled out refugee CTO, nodded to Lena for donation to cyber curriculum, and finally gestured toward me. Spotlight warmed my cheeks as he said, my first gardener taught me that roots grip strongest when winds challenge them. Applause rolled gentle, not thunder, but river ripple. I inclined my head, heart steady. Cameras flashed, capturing not war scars, but bloom aftermath. After ceremony, Jason guided me to a quiet corner where path overlooked illuminated bridge arches. He handed envelope, my letter, edges worn from rereads. Distance honored, he said, voice thick. We watched lanterns drift skyward, each carrying a slip of paper on which guests wrote lessons they chose. My slip read release, his renew. Lena approached, hands clasped. She presented slim book printed by small press, Phoenix and Compass, essays on failure's fertilizer. Forward acknowledged breadcrumbs that saved a wandering heart. I accepted copy, weight fragile but sincere. We shared tentative smile, no sisters, but perhaps gardeners in adjacent lots. Later, volunteers extinguished lanterns, laughter faded, moon sailed higher. Jason locked greenhouse, handing me keys. For emergency pruning only, he teased. I clipped them to purse, felt lighter. Walking toward exit, we crossed wooden bridge over canal. Wind rustled reeds, whispering memory of storms now distant. Jason paused midpoint. Listen, he said. Water lapped, leaves shivered, no thunder, no applause, just living wind. Echoes become breeze, he murmured. I inhaled crispinite air. Chest expanded unhampered. He hugged me, arm steady, no weight leaning. I released him first. Sentinel duty concluded, not by retreat but evolution. Tomorrow his life would outpace echoes, mine would nurture seeds yet to germinate. We parted at crossroads. He toward river apartment glowing warm, I toward home where roses slept under starlight. I fingered rose gold necklace, once pawned, now polished. On sidewalk, puddle-mirrored moon, and in its silver disk I saw not raven feathers, not daggers, but garden shears resting closed. Home, I opened greenhouse, breathed petals and damp earth. Journals lay on bench. I uncapped rose gold pen. Entry line. Thunder taught vigilance. Silence teaches trust. A gardener's final harvest is letting wind scatter seeds beyond fences. I closed journal, turned off lamps. Outside, wind bore faint scent of cardamom, stripped of memory's edges, now simply spice-riding night. I smiled unafraid and walked into darkness, soft as newly tilled soil.